Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Welcome to our first work session. Tonight our intent is to cover the City Manager's office, the City Clerk, Law Department, and sundry other miscellaneous areas. So I just want to start off tonight by just asking all of you to please, if you can, just let me know if there's sessions that you can't attend of the schedule we sent out so we can make sure that the links are working better. We got some technology figured out today. We're not going to have to leave it tonight, but in the future, the audio on the TVs will work. So for instance, like when Councilor Kennedy's at home, we won't have to rely on hearing the audio from over here going over the PA. It'll be coming right from the television set. So we're getting our older technology that was in the building kind of synchronized now with the newer stuff we're trying to use with these GoToWebinars. So I know it's been a little frustrating, but we're getting better every meeting. So today we did the sexual harassment prevention training, and the audio was really, really good streaming through here up to the TV. So I think it'll be a lot better, and we don't have to worry about the back feed in the building because we won't be using the PA. The audio will be coming from those. So just want to report on that. What I'd like to start with tonight, if we could, is if you'll turn to the organizational charts that I put in your packets. What I'm largely just trying to do, if you go through the city charter, one of the things we were trying to do is streamline the upper management staff. So with the retirement, the Comptroller, we're just using this as an opportunity now to look at ways we can make some efficiencies. So what you see here is largely how I propose to organize. There wouldn't be a director of public safety per se. Most likely, that title is something that. The title of Director of Public Safety is something that I'll wear as a collateral duty title, largely so that when there's a declared disaster or something like that, I have the authority to work with the state, with FEMA, et cetera. But I am grouping for budget purposes, obviously, or continuing to budget everything in public safety in that area. I'm just doing this largely so we see where all the functions are and how we're accounting for things. So I just want to get your thoughts on this. Some of the changes. Some of the changes that you'll see here is largely where we're titling the department public development, which will consist of our current planning and development operation. From there, we'll put code enforcement under the direction of the director, the assessor's office, and the recreation programs, not to be confused at all with where the recreation maintenance and facilities care, things like that are taking place at DPW. And I think looking at the office of the city manager, again, this is largely how we operate now. What I will be proposing here, though, is the office of comptroller would largely be, the title be modernized to the office of finance, but it'll be aligned on the city manager, which is where it is now. But I will use the existing staff that's in there with some reassignments of duties and some reparceling of the work. And I'd like to continue the process through a bid process to use an accounting firm as operational support versus filling another actual comptroller position. Human resources, we haven't had anyone for a couple of years. We won't. That'll still be largely managed out of my office along with media relations and information technology. We'll start the recruitment soon to return the confidential secretary back to the city manager's office, and those will be largely liaison duties that position will fulfill. Legal will, of course, continue to be contract legal support through our Convoy McKay law firm for our primary city management function. So I just wanted to, if you had a chance to look at this chart, I just wanted to talk through if anybody have any questions, and yes, the obvious is there would be changes required to our city doctrine, the charter, the administrative regulations, etc. One of the things I noted in the charter that I think it's just it's not appropriate use of doctrine now is there's just a lot of job duties, et cetera, for each position in the charter. And I don't think it's not an appropriate place for it to be. It really makes the charter a lot busier in areas that it needs to be. Everything is listed as a separate department, things that we don't have departments anymore, Department of Law, for instance. So there is some, what I really call cleanup work that gets us in line with how we're operating. I don't think any of these chart changes. Nicole, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I don't think none of the changes I'm talking about now are structural changes to the way the charter is intended to operate or function. I just think that we, in keeping with continuing to update our doctrine to match our operational processes, there's going to be some more changes required of that to get it in line. I think the administrative regulations are largely solid. There's a lot of duplication between things that are listed in the charter. For instance, the position of fire chief, there's a lot of duties listed in the charter, and then they're listed in the administrative regulations. It's a lot of redundancy that doesn't need to be there. I don't think any duties per se, other than the major responsibilities of the position, need to necessarily be located. So again, I was not looking for any necessarily action, just any comments. Again, I'm trying to make do with the positions that we have, and make sure that our organizational structure is streamlined and we don't have any one director, supervisor, department head, et cetera, overtasked with supervision. I think this largely balances the number of people and responsibilities that any one department head will. Questions?
No, we haven't gotten to finance yet, but that doesn't reflect or does it reflect your idea of going out and hiring a private company versus hiring an assessor, or does it?
Versus hiring a comptroller.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry.
So it really does. I mean, we haven't gotten to the line, Councilor Reese, but you'll see that in there. So it does reflect that. Now, again, whether we hire a comptroller or not, it would still be within the operating office safety. So, yeah. When we get to the comptroller budget sections, I think we can talk about work distribution and how I think it'll benefit us to have some outsourced support and reuse the money that we have in comptroller's position for some other areas that I think we desperately need the personnel support.
So you have two departments under public safety. Public works is largely it is DPW, so you have one department there, and then you have four, which are largely city hall functions. Okay. So this is just it's not a formal document or anything, and any charter needs to come later, and our approvals and that would come later.
We've formalized it through the charter changes. The changes.
Well, these are recommendations from you to go forward in this fashion. You're proposing it in your budget.
Yeah, I mean, so Councilor Powers, on a daily basis, I mean, this is how supervisory we're functioning under my authority, my direction. Okay. And the recommendations will be in the future, right? Official recommendations by way of charter changes, et cetera, et cetera.
So with the housekeeping that you mentioned in the charter, that you're looking to do some of the housekeeping, how do you propose doing that? Through legislation or through charter commission?
Well, no, I don't, you had your charter commission, on schedule to do it. I think, again, this to me is housekeeping stuff. I don't, again, not being insensitive to the fact that any change to the charter draws, public concern. I don't see the need for that, because again, I'm not looking for ideas of the way we shape things. I'm largely looking to do just that, housekeeping. So I would propose we've been doing it the way we're doing it now, perhaps take it one department at a time, one section at a time, so not to overwhelm. The thing I want to do corresponding different with this is pick a section and then do all the documentation. So any change to the charter that reflects changes to the administrative regulations, or any of our internal practices, we do it all so that you see it all, we approve it at one time, and we move through it. I think one of the difficulties with charter changes is just that it's catching all the second and third order effects of that have to be caught. And the administrative regulations largely have mirror sections for almost every section of the charter. So, and I think it'll be another opportunity for us to look at. And again, I think Councilor Powers, the difference in using the charter commission when I'm proposing is I am just looking at cleaning it up. Some of the items that we went through earlier this year, are things that if we're in conflict with state law or federal statute or something else, I just need to bring that to your all attention. And largely, it's a housekeeping, maneuver as far as I'm concerned. It isn't, the notion that we're going to somehow create our own rules that are outside federal or state statute. It's not sound logic. So I just want to be able to bring those things to your attention and say, here's the things that, and I hope going forward, council, we probably need to lay out some parameters. It appears to me from reading some notes and minutes, we point the charter commission, we get people's, knowledge and background to these things, but I think there's got to be some uniform regimented process in there. And one of the things I would recommend is again, just that, whether we hire it out or we find an expert, somebody to, again, just run the conflicts.
This is just a slight restructuring of departments for our economic times of our staff, which is a lot less, and our finances just
I largely put it in picture form of what I'm going to bring in.
yeah.
And what I want you to be able to see is how we're operating on a daily basis. For instance, Andrea Smith's position would largely become the Director of Public Development. And so she'd have these functions. And what we try to do there, for instance, is just streamline, things that we thought had, largely a lot of synergy working together. You'll see in the budget, we proposed a clerk for each department, or whatever we're calling it. So we're going to be as efficient as we can with administrative support. So I think as we go through the budget, you'll see that logic. But I think Councilor Powers, I just want to keep elaborating what you're getting. I'm not proposing charter changes other than things right now that are just cleanup. I'm really, this referendum.
That's why I mentioned housekeeping.
Yeah, the referendum thing went through, in my opinion, was largely, I know there's lots of opinions, but at the end of the day, we can't have something in our charter that's conflict with state law.
In your presentation here, you talked about eliminating the comptroller's position.
Right.
Well, that's a department.
Yes. Department head position. So what I'd like to do is title this a little more in line with a lot of the other cities have done is finance department. Comptroller is kind of an old term. It's also the state comptroller. So those things will come to you. Those things will come to you in official format for making those changes. What I want you to see mostly today is how we're functioning every day, how we're getting the business done, and who's taking care of what. Andrea will have a lot of responsibilities too. Not that the code enforcement officer won't be still in charge of those responsibilities, the assessor, but from the standpoint of having a department head, providing oversight to those programs, make sure we're planning properly, make sure that we're delegating properly, and we've got some level of chain of command between people at the first line level doing things, and myself. One of the things I see is that everything largely goes to my office from frontline worker to the city manager's office, and not a lot in between. And it's not a healthy culture, I don't think, because again, there's no appeal. Our charter has nothing beyond me. Once you get to me from an executive perspective, that's it. It's the end of the road. There really is no appeal to city council. Our charter isn't structured that way. So I'd like to be able to make sure that we have department heads in appropriate places to handle the problems and issues and concerns. And same thing with the public. I think a lot of times when we get a lot of public concerns, comments, code enforcement, for instance, and assessor, just areas that we're typically not out there, passing out good news all the time. So I think those are places where we can have somebody working with those individuals and taking some of the pressure for what I think is some of the political, working with the public and working with the community, answering questions, taking that off the people that are trying, being out there doing the work.
I'm sorry, Brittany, Councilor Skelly's at the door.
So the changes to the charter would be no different than the engineer was years ago. It's just a different terminology underneath it, still a Department of Engineering, but.
In 2007, the engineering department was removed through the charter commission, through the city council, and then ultimately through the charter commission.
Yeah, but the charter commission only meets every 10 years. They did it in 2017, and the rest of it's comes to council action.
No, I understand that, but you can reconvene the charter commission at any time.
Again, it's house cleaning.
Not when you're removing a department.
Well, you're not removing the
When you're
department.
changing the actual contract and language in the charter that has a comptroller in it.
Well, the department will still exist. It's just it exists.
You're changing your, what you call it, Department of Finance? Is that what you called it?
So I think what we'll end up with under each of these departments, we'll end up with divisions, and necessarily instead of departments. So it'd be a division of finance, for instance, which I stated. So technically, Council Department is correct. No question will be.
So
the city would largely be broken into 3 departments in an office of the city.
How you doing?
So why don't we agree that,
Agree to anything in this budget right now, as far as any maneuvering. These are hearings to discuss what we're going to discuss in City Hall right now. I don't think we should be agreeing to pretty much anything. So that comes in an official vote in December.
This was largely, for the moment, this is largely an FYI. This is how I function today. This is how we're operating. You'll be seeing other actions to codify this for your approval or not approval.
So
If the
my
assessor-
point that I was trying to make is,
I apologize, John. if I cut you.
why don't we agree that approval of the budget is not an endorsement of the organizational chart or an endorsement of any changes, that this is a draft that helps in your mind to see how. So that's my point I was trying to make.
Well, that's why we're here, really. But I agree with you.
Even the assessor's gonna be,
Can that be reflected in the minutes, or should we take a vote on that?
So we don't really take minutes right for these. This is all really just working session stuff. I think, I understand your town council, so. I think that's-
I mean, that's kind of the consensus of everybody,
Not me.
that it's a draft and it's not.
It is a draft. This is the draft. This is his proposed budget, that why we're here tonight to discuss the proposed budget.
Right, but in the end, it's part of the budget. And if
I'm not going to agree to this structure. I'm not going to give you a consensus to this structure until we go through every item in line
That's
and
my
department.
point that I'm trying to make. We're not agreeing to
can we
That it-
agree
that
to
it's- that
disagree
it's a
or not agree at
draft.
all?
it, and that our.
I can agree to disagree.
Or not agree at all?
Or,
And agree to not agree and move on?
yes,
Yeah, I just don't, it's part of this budget. So when we adopt the budget, I don't want it, to come back, well, you agreed to this in the budget. And I'm trying to say, no, I'm not agreeing to this right now, is what I'm trying to say.
Right, and I think what you're saying, and I was Councilor Powers saying, I can withdraw this from the proposal before you vote to the budget. I really, this was included here.
not what I'm getting. This was
Well,
your
there's a lot of these have to happen.
Without
Like,
question.
even if you approve this, we still have to do a bunch of changes to the charter.
Yes.
Like I said, this was really an information.
To the budget,
Yes.
not the charter, to the budget.
No, it's-
Oh, well, we talked about the housekeeping. already. We're talking about the comptrollers.
Right. And I'm not trying to use the charter change process to the budget process, not mine. That was just to be able to show you all where we're going and how we're organized.
And quite frankly, this is an official meeting, so there should be no votes being taken or consensus of council.
I don't think anybody is.
He asked for consensus of council, so the
Good here.
size.
I think consensus, but just for the purpose of giving me,
Yeah.
as we're maneuvering things, I think,
Yeah.
again, if it's something that's, has to be debated or approved, I just think from some of these things, we're just looking for some direction, that's all, like, how do you want me to tailor this or tailor that? But again, there's no minutes, there's no approvals or anything, this is what we call a working session.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so with that being said, what I had on tap for tonight was just to go through the pages. If there's, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but we'll go through them, and I'm sure you've all got notes or questions, so I want to be able to answer things. I guess we could start right out with page C1, C2. These are the C1 is the summary for all that, and general services support. C2 goes right to the mayor and council budget. If there was any questions, I can just kind of flip, and when someone wants to say stop, I can stop. So page C2 is pretty basic. No changes. That is it's the salaries for the mayor and the councilors. C3.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry,
no.
Steve. On C2, I see we're proposing 21,000. We had two members that refused salary. Are they taking it next year? Or is that's just your proposal?
Right, and I think.
I apologize.
No, and I think I'd like to leave it that way. I mean, we did talk about that, Councilor, and I just think it's appropriate for us to budget the money for the salaries that
Understood.
they're in the charter. If people choose not to take the money, then I'll ask you to reallocate it.
Well, if the mayor's down for 7,000, and I thought it was 7,500.
No, so.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
I took this job, I thought I was getting more. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Seven, okay, 7.
I'll agree.
Yeah, no, I told the manager that I continued to decline my salary and the state retirements for you. So.
Yep.
Okay.
So page C3 largely is the weighted page to that. So.
Could you elaborate on under office expenses? What do we have? Is there anything already allocated with that 5,000? Are we anticipating any purchases that we should be aware of?
No, Councilor, I've largely just followed along with kind of what's been traditional, and that's what we're funding things like that happen here in chambers. That's how we allocate what mayor and council costs us. So Like this year, for instance, we've spent some money on the IT equipment in here. I don't know that there isn't going to be some changes coming for IT equipment. I don't know if there's not either, but so we largely budget just so there's money in here. I think the other thing, and again, I put it there, there's certainly room to move your budget if things come up and people, need to travel to do anything, or if any of you are attending, conferences or whatever, but so largely office expenses just is covering those things that we do to support the council and mayor.
Okay, and
Good.
the last thing I had was on the contracted services. We haven't had that previously. Is that part of our like go to webinar? What is included under the contracted services?
Yes, that's what we did this year, was the contracted services. We didn't have it, we allocated the money from another line, but that's what we're showing it this year, is being able to keep whatever system we continue to use up and running.
Okay.
Don't see that going away. Even I think when COVID goes away, my guess is the state will probably continue to push us in the direction of being able to broadcast our meetings and things, so people get a greater ability to participate.
Why was the telephone, right? It was in 2020, there was it was funded, and then in 2021, it's not.
So what I've done, you'll see when we get to the central services line, when we switched our phone now to all West Telecom throughout the entire organization, we largely get one bill. And so it's all under central services now. You'll see a couple individual telephone lines in like the police department where they've got specialized lines for something. Cell phones for cars, things that are significant, but the telephones that was the phone bill we've categorized under central services now.
So forgive me if Nicole asked about the office expense for the 5,000 and the contracted services for 5,000. So we're looking at a total of 10. Typically for.
Right, so we've got that. We budgeted 5,000, which was the mirror of the money we allocated this year from another line to cover the webinar system. And then I budgeted 5,000 for 2021. In previous years, we've budgeted as much as 11,000.
What other lines you take it from?
How did we pay for the webinar system? I wasn't here for that too.
Well, first of all, we never used it before. So when COVID hit,
Yeah.
So it was an allocation in that manner, but it was actually being pulled from the mayor and council's budget, not budgeted for. The initial proposal was to put it in the city clerk's budget, but you felt it was more appropriate for it to be in the mayor and council budget. So it was moved from my line to.
Where did we get the money to pay for it this year? I think he's asking us, where did we pull it from in 2020? Do you remember?
I'd have to look to see what line item.
Let's just make a note, we'll get it.
I will. Can I just point out that there is a grant that Andrea has been tracking all of those expenses, because we can seek some reimbursement.
Right.
So I will find that out.
And then there's
And not grants.
another 5 of office expenses, but it's 2,000 less than 2021 or 2020.
So what Kathy was just mentioning, so New York still has an open disaster declaration. So anything that we spend that was specifically for responding to COVID, we've got the ability to submit that with our request to the state to get disaster funding for that. So we haven't had a lot, but the little things they can, and we'll attempt to put the money in that we spent on this specifically, to do this because of COVID.
We have a roundabout number for that?
Where are we at? So much.
Remote services,
So much to keep moving here.
roughly.
Under 10,000. Probably in the $7,500 range. You have to have a minimum of $3,500 direct expenses. And it's for really essentially purchases like the go-to webinar, hand sanitizer, those types of things.
PPE, anything like that.
Exactly. It does not cover staff time at all unless it is a direct response to a COVID-19 related thing. So if, for example, there were required roadblocks and our police had to man roadblocks, it was a direct result of an executive order, for example, then their time could count as an expense, but just going to a house call or something isn't.
Understood.
So it has to be directly related response. And we've been keeping track of them. There's been a laptop purchase, there's been the webinar, there has been PPE purchased and hand sanitizers and dispensers. But overall, our accounts have been pretty low, but we have passed the threshold, so we do qualify for up to 75% reimbursement of those costs.
And the good news is you won't see those disasters close out anytime soon. So we'll be able, this when we ramp up again and something occurs, but this will be open for quite some time.
Thank you.
And I think, I don't know, we still should look into it, but I think that, that the initial purchase of the GoToWebinar, the thought was that because there had been counselors that declined their stipend, that the funding would initially come from that and be reallocated into the consultant line. I think that was the initial thought. I don't know if that did actually happen, but I do know that that was one of the discussions in terms of where to actually recoup the cost to meet that initial.
Okay, moving on to the city manager.
Your pay is less fee?
So I looked at, I've been looking at pay for the city manager position and all the department head positions, comparing similar sized cities, similar demographic, et cetera. I've got, quite a bit more research to do on that. But I think the pay for the city manager position should top out somewhere in the neighborhood of $112,000 to $15,000. That should be the higher range. So what I did there is I proposed a 10% cut in the pay that was originally agreed to in my contract from 120 to 108.
But that's not, well, we can get to that later.
But then you have a stipend in fire
That's what I was gonna get at.
for 12,000.
I'm gonna wait to get that.
So that's 120. So
What I largely do is I took that 12 from here and I put it there to start building the salary towards, when we make a decision, we're able to fill the fire chief's position. So it also could be used as a stipend for somebody else, if one of the assistant chiefs agrees to take that on, but it's not intended to be for myself. I don't intend to continue the dual role far into 2021. So we'll either have somebody there appointed to do that, or we'll have hired somebody. We'll have reached some resolution. I'm trying to get fidelity from the state, exactly when tests will be given and when we can look at permanency. It's even hard. I find it's going to be hard to recruit on a provisional basis because I won't be able to tell somebody if, let's say we hired somebody, who's not in the fire department from anywhere, when is the test going to be given? When will you know if you've got a job long-term? So I took that money for my salary and put it there just to start building forward on that. And I'll look at using other money from positions that if we get higher lag or something, it feels slow to generate that salary, whatever it needs to be when we get there.
I guess my question with the 12 would be, why even bother to put it there if we don't have it? We're looking at a civil service lag here as far as being able to put in a fire chief other than maybe one of our assistants stepping up. But other than that, why even move the money?
Well, I'll need the money if I move somebody, I have to pay them. I mean, I'll need to put some money there, and I need to. And again, remember, this was a proposed budget, so I'm trying to leave myself some flexibility of where to move money and things. That's a position right now I'm not filling right now at the first of the year. But that 12,000 I moved from here, I captured in there. I anticipate trying to fund that, in the neighborhood of about 60 some odd thousand based on when I think we may get somebody on board. So I need to put about 60,000 over there. And the salary for that job, I think will top out in the low to mid 80s based on the research that we're doing. I figure it could be vacant for, another two to 3 months into the year. So it's largely a working document, Counselor. And again, if we go back to using a model where we in the fire department, I'll need some money to cover that.
And I like the fact that we're running on C4, just save 10%. So.
Well, 10% into another line.
Well,
You're not
we're
really-
not at that line yet. I'm saying at least on this page, I'm liking this page.
But it's in there though. You've seen
I've
it.
seen
The
it.
12's in there.
Well, we're going to get to that one, but I mean, so far this is pretty good. I appreciate the fact that you took 10% less.
Thank you.
The 52,000 for the secretary. I did, just to jump back to the 12 going into the, I mean, in these tight fiscal times, I'm not a fan of moving money anywhere to the pad anywhere, especially if we don't have an item that we're looking at. We've got, it's pretty obvious here to all of us that there's nobody that wants to be the fire chief right now. So with that, we're going to have to go to civil service. We're going to have to canvass. You just mentioned that it's going to be difficult to find a candidate through the provisional list. So with that being said, why move the money? But that's just my opinion, and I'll leave that.
We deal with that when we get to that part.
Well, John brought it up. John just brought it up, and that's so.
Let's move on.
Can we get, and I, for the moment,
It's just, I'm just not a fan of moving money right now. That's.
well, if the budget is adopted, we'd be moving right now. I mean, it's, again, we're in draft form. I guess the takeaway from here is we reduce the city manager's.
Right.
That's our takeaway. And then, did you have a question? Hang on, Councilor Kennedy, were you trying to say something?
Yeah, I was just, I was kind of moving away from that topic and going down to the secretary position. I was looking at the steps. I was just wondering why we are starting that salary at such a high step.
That's
my question too, yeah.
It's a union position. It's an entry level union position.
Yeah, I was just concerned that was, that's a considerable wage in compared, if you look at even what the city clerk makes, the deputy clerk, I mean, and this would be an entry level position. And I just thought that was awful high to start that salary at.
Right, so just a couple things for clarification. It's not a union position.
It's confidential.
It's a confidential assistant to the city manager. I don't plan on hiring an entry level person. I mean, I need an assistant. I don't need a secretary. The one thing you don't see here, and I apologize for not making this clear, the city manager secretary line, part of it was here, which is what you saw in previous years. Part of it was in law, part of it was under mayor and council. So the salary was higher than 32,000. It's just, I
know, yeah, it was always 60, 20, 20 is how it's always been done. I wasn't.
You'll see the salary, I think was like maybe around 48. So
yeah.
I could have
quite a few years in. So I guess that was my only concern, was the drastic jump over Corley had quite a few years and then going up to this salary. I just thought that was a little steep in my opinion anyways.
Yeah. Yep.
So the secretary will no longer be split?
I'm just not splitting the funding. It's general funding, Counselor. Some of these things that we split up seem to me to be no real significant purpose. They'll still serve whoever they need to serve. I agree to the splitting here in the budget documents when we're trying to designate between like water and sewer fund for that purpose. But when we're percenting through the general fund, it's just making more accounting work for us. For instance, if you guys are just bringing it up, when I was trying to figure out what the recruitment pay range for this would be, I went here and saw 32,000. And quite honestly, I thought to myself, again, for what I'm looking for, that's going to be difficult. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's two other lines where that salary is, and it's quite a bit, 32,000. So.
It just gives you more accurate.
So what was it split before? 60, 20, 20 for what?
Law.
Okay.
And then to council.
But nothing for water and sewer?
No. I'm just using the example in other places in the budget where we break it up.
Absolutely.
Because we're trying to identify, right, the different funds it's coming from. Here, it's all coming from the general.
Get that.
Yeah, we didn't take this position wasn't coming from the general, nothing from it.
That the employee would be at will.
Oh, absolutely. And I think they've always been at will. I don't think there's no change to that. Kathy, is that correct? This has always been an at will? Yeah, correct.
I mean, I just want to throw it out there, but I think 52,000, I don't think anybody should start at a rate higher than what Coral Lee was making with all of her experience.
So again, I put some high numbers in here on the high range. Again, I've created, and I'm working every day to fill in a few more blanks, the salary range to bring to you. I'm just working on correcting those for the executive positions, what they should be. At the time when I was first filling this out, I thought that I was most likely transferring a senior employee within the organization that was most likely going to be pretty close to this range anyway. So that looks like it's not occurring now. That employee is going to take a different opportunity. But so the starting salary for the range on this will be probably more like in the 43, 44 range would be the starting range, just to be the upper end range. I tried to everything, at least where I thought worst case scenario could be. Again, we can always save the few $1,000s here and there. I just didn't want to, trying to stay under budget while we're operating.
Okay.
And I guess, let me say this too, I most likely, when we get the job description finally finished, this position may have a few more duties than previous as well. Again, looking at, you know, how we can absorb duties that are positions that are gone. So this position will be most like our human resources liaison, it'll be our IT liaison, it'll be our media relations liaison. I mean, I'll be packing a lot of things into a position. Really, it'll be the percentage here is it'll largely, you know, work kind of on the city manager stuff about 25% of the time. It'll largely be, you know, have other functions that I'm just trying to get off people that have been absorbing a lot of things. I've got a lot of things going on in the city clerk's office right now. They're largely not necessarily city clerk functions and really take away from the time to adequately work some of those issues. So I am, the position will look a little bit different than the last person that I get. And not taking away anything from that, just there's other things that are not getting done. I've got to put on something.
Sorry, I've got to go grab a phone charger.
I largely kept everything in the operational side pretty low to what we were doing. Retirement, things go up. Just again, this is all based on we'll pay next year what last year's retirement contributions were. So these are all based on action.
Sorry, where?
I'm C5.
Thank you.
C4, C5 still there.
I know on the bottom it says local effort required.
Does that work?
So we don't really have too many positions where we could say they're being funded by outside sources, right?
No, sir.
I mean, that's another organization.
Yes, except what we do have in a lot of cases, you'll see as we get into our budgets, you'll see where revenue comes in, for instance, from the water fund into funding the general fund. And so that's where by what is the general fund, and then you'll see where it's not portions. Again, there's nothing in here that in this budget that has that, but that's largely where the other sources of revenue are.
Okay.
You know, a couple of police for the OBPA and one for the school, but largely no, we don't have a lot of other things funded by other agencies.
No comptroller?
So are we ready to move on?
Yep.
C6, okay. And so my recommendation here is what I started talking about earlier. We will not fill the comptroller position at this time. I will redistribute the duties over the 4 positions that are there. Andrea Smith will take over supervisory, administrative, and director level assignments from there. And then we will put out an RFP to use an accounting firm to be able to provide you know, any side-by-side guidance or assistance that we need in preparing documents, putting studies together, things like that. As we took the comptroller's salary, benefits, et cetera, we've, in the public development department, what you'll see, and I'm not trying to skip ahead because this isn't our night's budget, but we largely wanted to add a planning position and a clerk position to cover the entire department. So in planning to do that, and along with budgeting them out for some contractual support, we're still under budget what we were spending on the comptroller position alone. So again, I'm just diverting that money. I think it'll make us a little more flexible, a little more agile. I'm fully confident in Andrea's ability to handle the supervisory administrative oversight and understand what's happening there. And then really one of the things in this short period of time without the comptroller and using the accounting firm, you know, I've noticed is we really are getting some efficiency there because we buy the services of a firm. So we can get some things done fairly quickly, special request type things, special studies, special analysis, because I can give it to a group and they can go get it done instead of trying to waylay somebody who's got a full-time job already with a special project.
So
with a special project. So it pays for itself. But so to answer the ultimate question is, I'm recommending not filling the comptroller, funding or filling the comptroller position at this time.
How much is the accounting firm charging us?
You'll see, Counselor, when we get into the next budget there for, I think we planned, let me see. I got the wrong glasses tonight.
Looks like 84,000 in the consultant line.
Yeah, so not all that is for the, not all that is for the, for what we'd be using for the, for general daily services. Also, that is the, including that is the fee we pay for the audit firm to do our annual audit as well.
We'd be doing an RFP with accountants
Yes, sir.
for such service?
Yes, sir.
How would that work as far as check signing for anything that would come out of the city? They can't sign any of our checks.
No, what I'd be looking to do for accounting services, again, is just, for instance, a monthly check, are our documents in order? Is everything in compliance with state regulations? We would be managing our own stuff as we're doing now. So we've done now on the check writing process, it's all being handled internally. We've got two of the staff in the comptroller's office are the signers. Once we get the audit committee's approval on the audit, I will turn over my responsibility as administrator of all the accounts to Andrea. So as we talked about a couple meetings ago, I'll be completely out of that. So Andrea will have ultimate oversight of it, but the signature authority for the day-to-day account handling, writing checks, moving money will happen from two of the staff in the accounting office currently.
So the 84 with the audit, I can't remember, we just approved the audit, what's that,
21, 22.
21, yeah, that's right. Okay, but that's.
We budgeted about 4,000 a month support from an accounting firm. That's about what we budgeted. Just based on the number of hours I thought we would use. Again, I'm finding we have a lot of need for right now just because we have so much going on. For instance, I really need to get somebody working on another projection with revised numbers for sewer and water rates. We made our recommendation this year, but we know we're coming to those payout factors. So being able to give that to a firm who can adequately put those numbers together in rapid time, verify things for us will be a giant help. And again, when I give a project like that to the staff, it largely something gets held back. There's a lot of things that go on with that.
I have a question.
Yes.
As far as the employees that we have in the comptroller's office, are any of them working out of title? Are they all within title? I just am concerned in that area of not having the day-to-day operations. Are they being asked to do things that aren't within their titles?
They are, and we're gonna pay them appropriately for some of the work that's out of time. It's a little more difficult to discern there than some other organizations where the duties are quite regimented. Tim was largely doing his duties, the duties of an old deputy comptroller position. So one of the things that we'll be looking at doing is reassigning duties with an appropriate work class classification. And again, administrative supervisory things will go to Andrea. We're also going to look in the coming year. The structure in the office there, I think, is largely in place because at the time we didn't necessarily have people. For instance, Ellie Campo used to work under a senior payroll technician, and our senior payroll technician left, and instead of filling that position, we abolished it. But Ellie didn't have enough time, for instance, to have competed anyway for a senior comptroller position. So one of the things I'll task Andrea with is looking at the adequacy and the correctness of the positions that are in there. I think there's a couple of adjustments that need to be made as far as titles, seniority levels versus accounting technician versus senior accounting or accounting 1, accounting 2, whatever. So Andrea will look at that right away and determine if we've got the right classifications for the duties that we're assigning.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I know that we're asking a lot of that department, and I just wanted to make sure that the people that are in there weren't being, used and abused.
No, we are, and Ellie Campo is now the president of the white collar CSA portion of the union. So her and I've had this discussion, and I'm gonna, I've asked them to document properly, and we'll make sure that they're compensated for the work they're doing. Perfect,
thank you.
Going forward here, you're looking at some title changes here inside of a contractual benefit that they have here. I guess my concern is the salary budget. There's the 97,799 as far as salaries reflect these changes that Nicole asked about as far as salary bumps.
So for this year, which is largely when the, let's say out of title pay, if you will, we'll cover that within this year's budget. We'll have everyone in the correct classification or title going forward. Salary bumps in two Counselor, I do understand any new titles will be they'll be civil service, positions. Everybody will have to test for those, et cetera. And there's established salary lines. And I took all that into consideration. It doesn't change their salaries greatly initially either. And what I think we're largely looking at, and I don't want to, I'm speaking literally here conceptually. Andrea's got work to do, but like what I envision most likely is we have a senior payroll technician that kind of covers us for the additional duties and work. Instead of, we have 3 accounting tech, Kathy, are they accounting technicians? Accounting clerks. So most likely one of them would be a senior clerk. That's how I would see that happening. So no big departures from anything within civil service titles that were in there, just a matter of organizing based on how we're assigning duties.
So your conceptual approach, as you said.
Yeah.
Does it reflect the salary that you're proposing in this contract?
Yes, it will cover.
In this budget?
It'll cover it, yes, sir.
I guess just from an operational standpoint, I know Andrea's got a lot. You spoke recently at a council meeting about many of the things that we want to get moving here, especially along the waterfront. Andrea's got a pretty heavy plate. Is this, I'm not trying to take anything away from Andrea here. I don't know what her position is. I'm sure she's fine with it, but going forward, we've got a lot in the hopper here, and we're throwing a department on her lap.
We do, and we have. There's no question we have a lot. Everyone's got a lot. What we've gone back and forth with on our discussion, and you'll see on the chart, we've gone back and forth between recreation working under me, comptroller working under Andrea, comptroller working under me, recreation under Andrea, back and forth. So I don't want to. We're not 100% settled. So you'll see I've written it one way in here, and I'm talking about it another way tonight because we're just trying to find out what that work balance is. Right now, we don't have recreation to any degree. The one recreation program we've got open with Lockwood, Shane and I are able to manage that with a little bit of help from Kathy, et cetera. So part of it's just anticipating the workload, seeing where things go, and then being flexible and adjusting a little bit. So.
Then I had one more thing on the longevity incentive. That $1,000 can come out because that was for Tim, correct? And since he's no longer with us, that can come right off the budget.
Are you saying that's because that was a senior, that's an executive or a department head pay thing, longevity doesn't, because everybody else gets their steps, right?
No, everyone who meets the requirements for longevity, and there may be someone in the comptroller's office, but I don't know the amount because I don't know.
We'll check it, Counselor.
Okay, because if this is $1,000, if we don't need to have it there, we don't.
Yeah. Again, everything else operationally we kept fairly flat.
Is there any thought to making the manager's position the chief executive officer as well as the chief financial officer in terms of overseeing the finance department if we went to subbing that position out, as well as the ability to sign checks and everything? And
so the manager position is currently the chief executive officer and the chief administrative officer.
You have to have a sense of checks and balances, I think, in an
Right.
organization.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd get yourself in trouble.
Yeah. So what we've thought through, counselors, is just that. Like I wouldn't be on the check rating. I wouldn't be on the accounts necessarily. I mean, obviously I have oversight of everybody on those, but I wouldn't be on them. So that was my thinking, was not to have all three necessarily, CEO, CFO, and CAO on the same thing. Again, our budgeting practices are pretty tight. The way we write checks and acclimate money, et cetera. But as Councilor Scampley said, I don't recommend it that I would have all three titles. I don't. I think it's probably better if somebody else has that necessarily. No, or actually I can say, do we necessarily need the CFO title? I think, again, apportioning the duties the way we're doing it, and then whoever is the director is the administrator, not necessarily a CFO level title. So I don't know. To me, it's sort of a title. What I'm proposing again with the accounting firm isn't that they take over that duty. I'm really just proposing using a firm to get some of the work done instead of hiring a full-time equivalent.
I think it's a good idea.
But whoever is overseeing the department and is responsible for the finances generally has a degree in finance and accounting. So it gets a little complicated when you want to, without that position. So
Well, and again, I say those are things that we can put in the RFP. I mean, I think we would hire a CPA firm. So and maybe that's one of the things we look at is that they certify every month or they certify every meeting. They look at the financial statements that they go out. No different now. Our chief legal officer, if you will, is contracted. So, yeah, I mean, I think we can work out the nuance for all those things, as far as the titling and who's handling what.
I believe Canton uses an accounting firm to do all theirs.
Yeah, right. Talent Canton completely outsources their comptroller function, correct?
We on to C8?
And I guess I'll say, one of the things I think we did last meeting that was definitely helpful was, I know I kind of liked it too, actually, was instead of just seeing that big warrant numbers there, we're able to see the printouts. So if something jumps off the page, you just can ask. I mean, you asked a good question. What was $27,000? That was a pretty big check. That you wrote. What was it for? We should be able to answer fairly quickly on what those were. Because ultimately, you approve the money at the end of the day. You approve the money.
So this department was left off for tonight. I mean, it wasn't included, right? So I wasn't prepared for it.
No, it's okay. And we'll, so again, John, it kind of popped up on my next flip here. And I have admittingly, this is the one area that I'm not, even tonight, I'm not sold on it. So I appreciate this work session to hear your ideas and thoughts. Councilor Powers, we certainly have, you've heard me talk about the number of things that we've got Andrea doing and, what can one person's level of efficiency be when you're doing so many critical tasks. So her and I have gone back and forth on this, trying to strike the balance. So again, I am using these work sessions as somewhat of a sounding board for you all to tell me your concerns or ideas, or as we do more with less, how do we divide the work up so that we don't get somebody, in too deep, not paying attention to a function. And it's good for us. We're in this every day. I feel like we get everything done every day. Some days a little longer, a little harder than others, but I think it's good, again, as you all look at it and go, hey, wait a minute, is that really possible for one person to do all those things?
Well, we're not in that now, but so.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm not gonna bring it up, but we will be adding in your budget, possibly bringing someone in to help me.
Potentially.
And so.
It still will be a lot. I mean, I don't want to kid anybody.
Oh, yeah.
All these functions there's a lot of things. Just this audit process, what I learned in there, all the things that go into, we talked this year to the accountant, we awarded largely to the same firm that has previously done our audit. And one of the things I asked them was, hey, I just want it earlier. Like I really need it earlier. Like I really don't want to have my hand on the 2019 budget, 2020 budget and 2021 budget all at the same time. Like I need that earlier. So we synchronize it with the present budget as we're projecting for the future budget. And what we realized was how much work the city staff does to get that audit information prepared. Yeah, a lot.
It's maybe I guess I'm just asking, I mean, seeing that we're a city, I don't know if there's any regulation that requires us to have a comptroller, but was this discussed with the lawyer before this ever came out?
Yeah, he had discussed it briefly, but I've been working with a couple other cities, City of Corning for one, just looking at how they modernize their management structure and moving to a Department of Finance is one of the things he did. It's largely the same thing. What I learned through researching through the state laws, there's no nothing that says you have to have a title comptroller person. You do have to have somebody who is dedicated and delegated your financial responsibility.
Good research.
Well, and none of these are cut and dry, by the way. None of these things are cut and dry.
Are we moving on to page C8 now? Are we going on to the assessments?
Nope.
We're not?
Yeah. No, so assessments will be covered when Andrea does just her brief here in a couple of weeks. We are moving to C10 for the city clerk.
So is that enough of a review for assessment? Our workshop on the 23rd is pretty light. Should we revisit it then? Will there be more clarity or what do you want to do?
For what, John? Did
For
you say-
for the comptroller, I keep saying assessment, I don't know why.
It's okay. Yeah, I'd like to revisit it then too. And we'll have a few more answers then. I got some, you gave me some good thoughts tonight that I need to just think through a little bit, and Andrew and I'll talk about it again. And then the actual assessment will be covered under her night. That one we're hard and fast on.
So I think we should budget for an assessor.
We're skipping that one tonight.
So the budget is done, Counselor, in the order of which each of these department budgets are done. But
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, so we're skipping to C10.
I think we should be budgeting a comptroller.
Noted. Clerk, Kathy, you want to stay in your seat and any questions that we've got?
Anybody have any questions?
I would just to state, going forward, the notes that are in the bottom of this, normally those are removed for the general public's viewing. I would just like to see that going forward, have those removed. Normally those are deleted before they go out.
That's just the COLA and the STEP program for the deputy and the clerk. I'm wondering why it's even there, but yeah, regardless.
And
It's notes for us for planning purposes. I mean,
other than, I have no questions under the city clerk.
What's the likelihood of meeting revenues?
For 2020, sir?
Yeah, for 2020 and what we're budgeting for 21.
For the clerk,
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that we're going to meet them. What you see there is run through September 30th because of COVID. Naturally, everything is down. There was a period of time that City Hall was closed, which did decrease a lot of the revenue that we were generating from services that people would normally walk in for. I did run the October report, which does add to naturally the revenues on each line item. But at this point in time, I do not feel comfortable saying that we will meet the projected revenue for 2020 simply because of everything that has gone on. Which in essence is part of the reason why I felt that it was best to keep the projected revenue for 2021 the same as it was for 2020, because it is an average that we do run. I can tell you that one line item that we will exceed, in fact, we already have, is the marriages performed. As odd as that sounds, during the middle of a pandemic, we have performed more marriages than we budgeted for and anticipated. So on a good note, we generated more revenue there.
I thought the divorce rate was going up, not the marriage rate.
You may be right. So there may be attorneys doing really well in that department as well.
Kath, with the changes that we've done to the charter and anticipated other changes, we had that municipal code update from the
Yes, sir.
general code publishers. Is that done?
I have received it. There was a delay because of COVID, but I do have the printout, and they have sent me the electronic version. I'll be honest with you, I'm just trying to find a moment to spend to get it uploaded to the city website.
Right.
But I do have it.
And is there like fees for future?
Yes,
Like,
and
because
that is,
we've just changed it again, and there's going to be more changes. Like Dan didn't want to do it the last time because the cure sign ordinances and all that was on a review, which was going to change. Remember, we allocated the money and we said
We had a huge code change coming.
right, but that's why I say, is there monies allocated for that?
there
in
are.
order
If you
to
look
do
on the
these
contracted
changes?
service line, you will see the 3175. That actually covers the BAS system that the clerk's office uses, as well as the general code annual maintenance. And the way that it works with general code is whenever we make a change to our charter administrative regs or OMC, I guess the easiest way for me to explain it is if you all have a moment, if you could look at Potsdam's website and look at their code, you will see that the code stays the same. And then they have all the changes that are made throughout the year. So for instance, if you search dog licenses in Potsdam and they had made a change 2 months ago, it wouldn't show in the standard form of the code, but it would, when you did the search, it would prompt you to say, oh, look, this is what it was. Here's a change that was made on such and such a day and another day. What happens is after you get so many of those built up, there is an expense to codify that, to bring it all into your main code and eliminate it how it's hanging off to the side. And then, like I say, the easiest way, it's hard to explain, but if you go to the Potsdam, New York website and you look at theirs, it's a perfect example. You'll see everything that's hanging out. I have spoken with a number of municipalities. The expense to codify is large. So what you want to do is you want to do it periodically. So with the changes that are possibly being proposed and the changes that we have made throughout this year, it would probably make sense for me to try to get an estimate on what it would be near budget time in 2021, so we could budget for that codification in 2022.
Maybe they can all get that once.
Yeah. We have to vote on that code system, of course.
Yeah, there's one aspect of it that we didn't approve.
What's that?
It was, am I correct in that?
Well,
The larger portion of it. There was
Yeah.
2 portions of the code, correct?
like the whole code, a lot of it.
Right.
completely Revised,
Right.
but we just.
That had a price tag of about 10K, am I correct?
That was a legal review.
Thank you.
Yes, that's what it was. It was a legal review, and we opted not to do that because at the time our city attorney had been, reviewing just like our current attorney does. So it seemed like an expense that we could forego at the time. It is something that if you wanted to, we could certainly do that. But if you're proposing changes, I'm assuming every change is going to be looked at as we go through the process. And again, that's going to put you back into where you need to do the codification at some point. And the longer you wait, the higher the cost.
Higher
So
price.
just something that we need to be thinking ahead towards.
And this, what we've done already was pretty much just getting it updated and getting a better system for the public.
That is
And so
correct.
that we have a better, plus as far as, we didn't have like basically the color, which we will in this one, because I think, remember, that's what you said, that we'd actually be in 2020 rather than back in
Exactly.
the dark ages and the
Exactly.
big binder
Yes.
of the OMC.
It is user friendly. If any, I'm sure all of you have looked at the code on our website, and it is in comparison to what we will have, and I'm hoping to have it uploaded with our budget sessions and things of that nature. I'm hoping to get it up on the website and active and functional by the end of this month, so everyone has the opportunity to review it. But it is apples and oranges, to be honest with you. It is an astronomical system, and they monitor it, and they take, they keep checking with the Department of State. So when we file a local law, that's part of the service we pay for throughout the year. They follow up on it, they update it, so they show all those changes that are pending.
Just want to make sure you have the money for it.
Yes, sir. I made sure. That was a biggie for me.
That's one of the most important documents that we have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that over the years, there's been a lot of time spent manually updating the version that we have right now. It is a huge, monstrous task. So this was very, very helpful.
Just to piggyback Councilor Reese's comments there, it's no different than the DMV. They're bypassing expirations of registrations and driver's licenses due to COVID. I imagine their revenues are taking a hit as well. Many counties, and I believe it's a part of the executive order until that gets lifted. So,
Which will probably be 2021 or 2022.
Yeah, so I just, in light of that, I didn't know whether we should decrease and not be so optimistic about the revenue and be realistic about it. So,
Councilor Reese, if I may, if you have the opportunity and you go back and look at previous budgets, you'll see that for the most part, the clerk's office has met the revenues or sometimes exceeded. Unfortunately, with COVID, it's been a rough year.
Yeah. I'm not questioning that
No,
one.
I understand what you're saying. Why
Yeah.
budget for it if it's not going to be there?
Right.
But I do feel confident that it will be, sir.
It will be in 2021?
I do feel confident, yes, sir. We're
Oh.
seeing an uptake right now, even though just the building being back open, and I do realize we don't know where we're headed with COVID, but we are seeing, like I said, we've exceeded the marriage budget line, and some of the other lines you'll see by the end of the year. You'll see an uptick.
Okay.
C12, law. Hey, Counselor Kennedy, if you, I just added it up real quick. So that 52 number I did get to by adding the 3 lines, law, city manager, city council for that, the administrative aid for the city manager position. When you add up the 3 lines, it all comes out to that amount.
Okay.
That was how I got it.
I'm sorry, where are you?
We're back talking about the confidential assistant to the city manager, how I hit 52,000. It was when I went through and added the 3 previous, the way it was budgeted before, it comes up to 52,000. 32 to the manager, 10,000 to council and mayor, 10,000 to the law. This is the law budget. There's no personnel in this. It's all operating. You'll see that I have increased the law amount. Some from last year, $36,000 or $34,000. Just anticipating we are doing more, legal reviews and multiple legal reviews and things like that. So I just want to have this budgeted.
34. I'm sorry, did you say 34 or 54?
34. 30. So we budgeted actual for 2019. Well, for 2019 used was 116, and I've got budgeted 150.
I'm sorry, all right, yeah.
It looks like 2020 actual expenses. Oh, that's up 930. Okay.
So not close yet. Yeah. She gotta go over that by far.
Really for apples to apples comparison, right? The consultant line is because that's the only line left in there. And again, no plans to change what we're doing now, contracting the city attorney services. Page C13 is personnel and civil service. Again, we've again transitioned that completely to the county. I just want to just know one of the things I learned when I first got here thinking the county was doing all of our personnel. They're not. The county is our civil service. They provide us assistance and support, but they're not our human resources or personnel office. We still do that between myself and Kathy for maintaining personnel files, writing documents, things like that. So. We can jump to page. Page C. After we did any questions on this.
So we moved on to page C16, is that correct?
C20?
Oh.
What was
So
on?
Government, those were the custodial positions. So we.
And, Shane will cover all those things in his presentation.
Okay.
No changes to this. We've been paying the historian $3,000 for her services. She largely comes to Kathy when she needs equipment, materials, anything like that. So,
Who's going to be covering general government C18? What are you going to?
Sure.
yeah, I will. I skipped it. Any questions on historian for Kathy? And just let her get down.
That was C20.
No.
historian. We can jump back to C18 then. I think the largest change here, real quick, we'll scan essential services. You will see is the telephone, because again, we moved everything from independent lines in each of budget. We moved it to there, and this reflects our current charges with the West Telecom voice over IP system. We will most likely spend less than this. Now that the system is in and in place, each department is really able now to do an evaluation of, what do they need. We really replaced, phone for phone, every place that they were, but we're seeing now places that we don't need those things now that we know how the phone system works. It was, the transition was pretty smooth, but a little confusing to understand how the system worked. But I think now that we're there, it's been a good service. I think we haven't any problems. They do well responding to trouble calls.
Could you elaborate on the other contractual expenses, the $15,000 jump there? Under 498?
For the most part, Counselor, what we're anticipating there, again, is just an increase of anything else. I don't like these other lines, but there's not a lot of other places to put things. So we put two things we've added to in there. One is some IT improvements. The phone system is one piece. The second is I've added a little bit of money, and if we have to increase our bandwidth capacity for the internet services for all the facilities. We're having a little bit of a difficult time now based on the number of users with the programs that we're using that are running off our servers. So we're working with West Telecom on that end, as well as DANK on the service end for our service coming in. But I'm anticipating if we've got to increase our bandwidth a little bit, we could see some increased cost, and maybe not. With a little bit of luck, we can figure some things out through efficiencies. What we've learned is by going in and getting the servers cleaned up, and Russ has done some really good work to get us switched over to new computers. Perhaps not, but our IT was lagging just a little bit, so I'm wanting to make sure we get everything the way it should be. So I added some additional amount based on potential unknown IT costs. We pay three entities largely to get internet. We pay DANK. Pay DANK to bring it to the building. We pay West Telecom to get it in the building, and then ultimately we pay West Telecom sort of again to pay. The internet provider's lost on me, but there's largely three entities that bring it all the way home for us.
And then is there anything under office expenses on 420? The request was 36,000, the proposed is 51. Is there any particular items that are in mind for that increase?
Sorry, I just gotta follow. The light's terrible right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got it. So our office expense there, we've done most of the computers, but I've got to look out now into the rest of the departments. We did everything in City Hall this year. Everybody's done except my office with new computers, but we've got a lot of outdated computers and a lack of computers in some places. So the fire department has two computers, but they're pretty one of them's pretty outdated. So I'm just again leaving some money for updating IT equipment. The printer contract in the building, the printers, the copiers, all that, we're going to sit down with advanced business systems and see what we need to do to become a little more efficient with that. I think we've got a few too many devices in the building, but I also think some of our stuff is pretty old and not giving us a lot of capability, and we see a few trouble calls. So again, we plan for some additional money, just not knowing ahead when we get done with the assessment of all the facilities, what our office expense will be for that equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Just to win the last upgrade as far as IT and computer system and phones. I mean, I think it just occurred not too long ago.
Phone, we just did phone. That's what I was just speaking of. We just finished.
No, even prior to the suggestion now, I mean, within a year or two, maybe, am I correct in that?
Everybody's on a little different schedule.
Yeah.
So it's gradually done throughout the building. Okay, so with the questions with 420 and 498, the increases on each, basically phones and bandwidth?
Phones, bandwidth, and
so we're using two lines for this?
Two lines for what?
For office expense and contractual expense?
Well, so
the contracts are for the vendors.
Correct.
My apologies.
That's good.
So the printing and advertising, I mean, we're looking at materials and supplies, an increase.
Again,
I'm
Council,
seeing pretty much an increase across the board here.
well, so most of those I took out of all the other lines too and brought them over here.
What other lines?
Printing and supplies and other department budgets, as you go through with each department, you'll see things.
So you're different from other office supplies.
Well, I'm just putting it all in central services, just accounting for it right here. We largely buy it all here, we distribute it here. So instead of having it all over the place, and when Kathy or somebody goes to buy paper, we charge some to here, some to there, some to here. Again, it's the general fund, it's the same money.
I think it's simplified.
Simplifies it for our purposes of again, the accounting.
Well, I guess the reasons why I keep asking these questions and in the beginning, and then this isn't a slight in any way, shape or form. Don't take it that way.
No.
But typically when we get a budget, we've got a pretty good synopsis and written form as to how it's being shaken out. And it's,
Sure.
So, now when you look at the lines, you're looking at every line and you're seeing the discrepancy, and I don't have anything to go off other than here. So.
Yeah, no, and I'll provide it, excuse me, I'll put together something tomorrow. There's a couple of things here I'm seeing I want to summarize better just so you understand the information. Then what you'll see as you go through each department's budget, you'll see the lines zeroed out. So you're seeing the increase here, but you'll see them zeroed on those lines. Kath, I think we covered everything. Is that?
Everything that you had planned, we advertised for you. DPW, water, sewer, and capital improvement program, Monday, November 16th at 6 p.m.
Our next session will certainly be a lot more sheets, more questions, obviously. So we've broken the presentation. Will be up in DPW, general functions, roads, grounds, building maintenance, etc. We'll do water and sewer, as separate entities as we review through it. I'm also updating the capital plan with dates, but I think it's important. I'm going to get that out to you ahead of but we're changing it. I'm changing a few things on it, but I want you just to see that again, because one of the things I want to discuss in there is, how do we begin to address the capital issues that are in there.
You may not see me on Thursday.
Okay. What are we doing Thursday?
Teacher conferences, so.
Thursday, the 19th.
Meeting,
Yes.
so.
And I may be remote on Monday.
I plan on this. I'm like, wow, but not. Well said, everyone.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
You,